Can you say anything at all, like the most innocuous, vague thing?
No.
News first, and also got to mention our friends at Riverside who make our beauteous appearance possible for you. Looking at you, hello, in gorgeous 1080p, filling the whole screen, taking up all of your brain at once. Riverside's fantastic for meetings, for social media, for podcast audio. I also use it for our podcast audio here. Super easy and fun to use, and you get 15% off with our code, which is breakfast15 down below. Check it out. They're pretty great. Yes, our first news item of the day is that Elon Musk has finally bought Twitter. It was in the works for a long time. Was he or wasn't he? And he was toying with people through tweets, but apparently now it has happened, and he is describing himself in his Twitter bio as Chief Twit. What do you think of this?
Well, I mean, obviously, it remains to be seen how this will manifest itself. Certainly, the worst elements of Twitter are super thrilled to get to be like racist and homophobic out loud. They think that's sort of what the new sheriff in town means. Mm-hmm. And if it does mean that, then I think a lot of people will feel the need to not be on Twitter anymore. I suspect that this is going to be a minor annoyance that goes away, but if it turns into something despicable, then we'll see a shift.
He fired a bunch of people, a bunch of the top executives, and has since had to pay them like many, many millions of dollars. I think I read like $200 million. He has to
no one ever
pay
said
them in settlement money.
Nobody ever said this guy was a good businessman, except for the people who don't know what they're talking about.
He sells a lot of cars. I see them all over my neighborhood.
Yeah, well, your neighborhood, sure. But
we don't have one. I'll just say that. So I mean, there is, of course, the question, and I want to pose it to all of you guys. If you're on Twitter, will you leave? Will this make you leave? I will stay, unless it becomes horrible, more horrible than it already is.
One of my favorite tweets this morning was, I cannot in good conscience remain on a social media platform run by an unscrupulous billionaire. So I'm going to Instagram, Sadly, so much of social media is run by, like corporate douchebags. So I don't know. But yeah, obviously there's a level of hideousness where I think for a lot of people, it's going to be like, all right, I'm out.
And yet think about all the people you never would have met if it weren't for Twitter. And the friends you would have made and the news you don't learn. I realize Twitter is not the real world, but it can be used for good.
Sure. No. I mean, it's been a great help to me in terms of like promoting stuff I've written or books or whatever. I don't have a giant Instagram or Facebook following. I do have a pretty good sized Twitter following, and it would suck to have to walk away from that. But if this winds up becoming fascism central, I will walk away from it, but we'll see what happens.
Let us know what you guys think about that. And then Wakanda Forever premiered this week, and then did you see it last night?
I did.
Can you say anything?
I'm under embargo.
Oh, can you say anything at all, like the most innocuous, vague thing?
No. Because here's the thing. It drives me nuts where they have these early screenings and everybody runs to Twitter and Facebook, whatever, like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, and then those get collected and then they get called, oh, the early reviews are in. It's like, no, that's not a review.
No,
that is like, I went to the premiere and had a good time and I'm going to write a tweet about it. Mm-hmm. So, when my review runs, you will see my full review.
Right. And so you and I are going to have an early review, an actual legitimate review. Mm-hmm. And then what we're talking about doing, and let us know if this interests you guys, is a live stream where we do a spoiler discussion. Yes. And that will probably be the Saturday after the film comes out. So like Saturday, November 12th, we're talking about doing that. If you want to hop on with us, because by then it will have been out for a couple of days. We can get into the nitty gritty and, tell us what you think about it in the chat, ask questions, whatever. So mark your calendar for November 12th. We'll have some more details on that. Yes. Coming up. That's exciting. We've never gone live before, Alonso.
I know. What will happen?
Anything could happen. Do you see this whole stupid Matthew Perry and Keanu Reeves beef?
Oh, God.
He apologized, by the way.
Oh, well, big of him. What? How many editors must have said, should we not? And Matthew Perry's like, no. This is gold. Keep it in.
It's going to be a good line. Right. So Matthew Perry has a memoir out about his career and his struggles with addiction. But in there, he mentions like people who have died far too young, like River Phoenix, for example.
Chris Farley.
And he's like, River Phoenix is gone, and yet Keanu Reeves still walks the earth. And then mentions it again a second time in the book later on, like, why Keanu Reeves? And so now Matthew Perry has apologized, as well he should. But what he's saying sounds really false and kind of unbelievable. Like, oh, I just picked a random name. Just a random name. I should have picked my own name, like Matthew Perry still walks the earth. Like, no, but you did it twice.
It's a shitty thing to say about anybody. Like, you should be dead, you know. But to rag on Keanu Reeves is so 90s. Like, there was that moment where I think probably after Bram Stoker's Dracula, it became very chic for actors to be like, oh, you know, like I remember there was that interview with Charlie Sheen in Movie Line where he's like, what is it about this guy where, you know, Bertolucci and Coppola and all these other directors are like, yeah, him, I want to work with that guy. And it's like, it was very easy to dunk on Keanu Reeves circa Point Break, but I think in the decades that followed, people love Keanu Reeves. He's great. He's a staple of the American cinema, and so you know, as our friend April Wolf said on Twitter, it shows that Matthew Perry's not spoken to like a real person outside of his bubble since the 90s, and so he thinks that's still a joke that is going to land.
Anyway, it's dumb. Yeah, Keanu's awesome, and he can do it all with grace and charisma, and like he never ages. So
yeah. So suck it, Matthew Perry, I think is what we're saying here.
I agree. James Gunn is taking over DC Studios. He is the co-CEO of
with Peter Safran.
Of DC Studios. I think we think of him mostly for Guardians of the Galaxy, but he also did Peacemaker.
And the Suicide Squad.
Yes, of course, which is a DC property. So I guess they want to try to recreate that vibe of like the action comedy, but within this giant comic book world. And it's just a tough tone to strike. So they're trying to be, I guess, less dour and more fun.
I mean, I guess I think, you know, one can look at this and be like, DC's like, we need a Feige, you know, like we need one or two people who are really kind of steering the whole ship and kind of coming up with what the flavor is going to be. And I think, you know, it's certainly an added benefit that this means, I guess, that after the third Guardians movie, Gunn doesn't get to double dip anymore, right? He'll just have to make DC projects, which, you know, good for DC.
I don't see how you could possibly at that level.
That seems,
it's like playing for the Red Sox and the Yankees. You just can't do it.
Well, you know what? Look, they gave J.J. Abrams Star Wars and Star Trek. So at this point, anything is possible.
Along those lines, there is going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Yes,
How giddy are you for this?
We raved about Werewolf by Night. I love the idea of the sort of Marvel one-off special where it doesn't have to be a 6-episode series on Disney Plus. And of course, I love the holiday special. So, like, yeah, why not? I hope they're singing, you know? It
looks very goofy. Okay, so Doctor Who is now going to start airing on Disney Plus. Can I tell you a secret?
Yes.
I've never seen a single episode of Doctor Who.
I never saw Doctor Who until I had to for our old stomping grounds at What the Flick.
Okay.
And so I only watched the Peter Capaldi seasons because it just timed out that's when we were doing it on the show. So I've never seen anything before that, and I haven't seen anything since that. So I know it's a big deal, and apparently Disney isn't just like carrying this; they're actually putting money into it and going to have some sort of like say in things. But I think Russell Davis is still running the show. You'll tell us in the comments because I don't really follow Doctor Who. No. That is a very large fan property and it's hard to dabble, you know?
Yeah. Let us know if you guys are excited about that. And then Girls 5 Eva is moving from Peacock to Netflix. And I know this is a show that you have said I will love. I'm sure I will. Just the clips I've seen of it, I've laughed my ass off. So
yeah. And that's, I mean, I think we're entering into a new territory here where this is an original show created for one streamer that is now going to another streamer. You know, and we would see this in the past with like network shows. But, you know, this is like NBC, Universal, Peacock, all those things. And now suddenly going somewhere else. So
yeah, two giant separate corporate entities. It's not like it went from like Disney Plus to Hulu.
Exactly.
It's two giant corporations. So that's something to look forward to. And then a couple of deaths to tell you about.
Yes.
Jerry Lee Lewis died.
Yes. And I kind of forgot he was alive. I mean,
I too was like, is this news?
He's been around. It's like when the Queen died, you're like, wow, that was a run, yeah. Jerry Lee Lewis.
He was 87. His seventh wife was beside him when he died.
Okay.
And so that's one. And then also you want to talk about, I know, Bass of Rankin and Bass.
Yes.
Jules Bass.
Jules, thank you. I didn't have it in front of me. Jules Bass, the surviving member of Rankin Bass. Rankin Bass, of course, made their name, again, speaking of holiday specials, they were the guys who created the stop motion Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman. Year Without a Santa Claus, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Like, they were some of the cornerstones of holiday entertainment, but they also like produced TV movies, and they did The Last Unicorn, which is I know is a beloved animated property among the millennials. I was a little old for that one, but people about 10 or 20 years younger than me are very into The Last Unicorn. So he also was like in his 90s, right?
He was 87.
They
were both 87.
Wow. Okay. So there's two lives you don't necessarily think about in tandem, but sure.
No.
Yes.